Today we are going to discuss what in popular parlance is being called swine flu, but what WHO has said that it should be called more accurately North American flu. Satyajit, what would you say about the current outbreak and the possibility of it becoming even more serious?
In the first place, the outbreak is, as an outbreak, confined to Mexico at the moment. What we have worldwide are cases generated by international travel from Mexico, cases that of people infected in Mexico who have gone elsewhere and who have seeded, in a sense, very small mini outbreaks, if you like, in other places. For us to worry about this, a number of things need to be determined, which to my knowledge so far haven't been formally determined. The first is, how virulent is this? Influenza viruses come in a variety of strains, and some of those strains are more virulent, some are less virulent. And what we mean by virulent is some cause more severe disease, some cause more mild disease, and amongst the severe ones, some are very good at causing death. And it's really those that we worry about rather than the influenza viruses that cause mild disease. There has been significant mortality from this particular strain of flu, but it's not mortality of the kind that has been reported for many other earlier strains, historical strains of flu, which have caused mortality in a very large minority or even occasionally claimed in a majority of cases. The second issue is, does the vaccine work? Now, influenza vaccines are oddities. They are made as a cocktail of vaccines, cocktail of strains that are representative of the families of influenza strains. But within families, every year there is an effort to make sure that specific individual strains within families are also represented in the vaccine so as to give maximal protection. It's not clear whether the current vaccine will work or not. What is clear is that this virus has already been incorporated into vaccine making strategies, and there has been talk that, principally from the WHO, although from the US Centers for Disease Control as well, that the first batches of the vaccine will roll sometime by the end of May. Although it's not clear whether they will roll purely for regulatory purposes to begin with, how accelerated the regulatory process will be, and when large enough batches of vaccine will be made available.
Since this is almost the end of the flu season, at least in the northern hemisphere, that means that the probable impact of this worldwide is not going to be perhaps that significant if we can roll out the vaccine early enough. And maybe it will have more of an impact in Latin America now, which still has not seen too many cases, only very few cases. Coming back to where it originated from. Now, as it appears, though it is being called swine flu because the strain is a variant of swine flu, but there is no genetic evidence from where this seems to have come. So, what do you think is a possible way that suddenly this virus appeared?
Well, the virus clearly has evidence of all the three great influenza virus categories: the swine category, the bird category, and the human category. The sequence shows some similarities with all three, and in that sense, I guess you could say that the virus represents a combination. The only transmission that seems to have been reported so far is human-to-human transmission. There is no real evidence of where it originated from in Mexico, but in almost no influenza epidemic is that kind of definition of an original Adam virus.
Forensic evidence is rather low.
Definable.
You know, that brings us to the next question, that there has been a lot of critical writings that this is the result of what is called industrial mode of meat production, and because we are getting pigs and chickens in close proximity, and the pigs tend to become incubators for the virus, that this is really the result of industrial meat production. Now, how seriously would you take this view?
In this particular instance, given that pigs have had nothing to do with this particular virus, the argument to me seems to be a little out of place. Whatever the intrinsic merits of the argument, it doesn't seem to apply in this particular instance. In the broader sense, I think there is some truth to that argument, but there is a great danger of confusing between the baby and the bathwater. It's, for example, in the case of avian flu strains, bird flu strains, it is true that if you have large concentrations of birds, that you are going to have some amount of transmission between them and bird handlers and anybody else who comes in close contact stands at risk of infection. But really, it's not in the first place as though eliminating industrial bird production is not going to allow, is going to prevent bird flu from happening. All said and done, the Spanish flu epidemic was prior to large-scale battery chicken farming.
And I would suggest that throughout history, we have had pandemics without industrial meat production amongst the farm population, animals, and also transmission to humans. So, this is in that sense, while obviously the chance of infection grows and transmission grows, but also the ability to prevent has also grown, and the ability to therefore address the problem also grows as a result of our knowledge, our controls and so on.
It is the industrial approach that allows us to generate drugs, that allows us to generate vaccines, that allows us to generate models by which we can track the virus, by which we can predict virus spread. There are at least 2 or maybe 3, but certainly 2 currently generated models of how this particular outbreak will play out, that are so far, it's early days yet, but so far following reasonably well in terms of their predictions being right.
The last point I would like to address is the question, of course, of patents and Tamiflu. Now, we have a medicine against influenza. I don't know how effective it will be against this, but there is at least a medicine available today. It is also patent protected in almost all countries. Don't you think there is now therefore a good case that any such pandemics, we should actually license this across a number of companies?
Oseltamivir, Tamiflu, is the result of deliberate research for finding an anti-influenza drug in the public sector, and has been licensed to Roche, and that's how Roche is holding patents. So, it's not even as if Roche as the company is the generator of this intellectual property. It is the purchaser of the exclusive rights to this intellectual property. That seems to me to be a spacious argument for providing protection for Roche's revenue. In any case, I think the possibility of an outbreak is good enough reason for us to say that what was turned down as an argument in 2004 when Indian manufacturers attempted to manufacture Oseltamivir should apply, that there is a societal emergency that overrides the exclusive component of the license.
So, do you think this is going to be a big pandemic? Of course, this is crystal ball gazing, or do you think we are in a position to control this?
I don't think it's good. I may come back here and eat crow in a few months wearing a mask. But I think all available evidence says that it's not going to be a pandemic in the societally significant sense. Technical definitions of pandemics are all said and done elastic enough that something that society will not consider particularly significant will still in technical terms be called a pandemic, simply because X many cases have been reported from Y many distinct sites on the globe. But I doubt very much that it's going to become a socially, economically significant issue months to come.
So, thank you Satyajit for this, Thank you Satyajit for explaining to us the various ramifications of this issue. And with this, we might have to again come back, as you said, after a few months to review what we have said today. Thanks.